At a Vietnamese family meal, there's a mistake you only make once. You take the wrong piece of food, and suddenly the table goes quiet. Not dramatically, just a small pause. 3 people stop moving their chopsticks.
Oh.
No one says anything, but you immediately realize you just broke a rule. The strange part is, no one ever told you what that rule was. And yet, everyone else at the table somehow knows it. Because Vietnamese meals don't just run on shared food. They run on unwritten rules. Who reaches first? How much you take? Even which piece of fish you're allowed to take. And if you don't know those rules, you can accidentally break one in the first 30 seconds of dinner. I'm John, a Vietnamese American living here full-time. But when I first moved back to Vietnam, I realized something pretty quickly. The way my family ate growing up in the US was very American. And I don't just mean the kind of food we ate. My parents worked different shifts. School schedules were different. Dinner wasn't always one big family meal. Sometimes my mom cooked a few dishes, and we just ate whenever we got home. And honestly, even when dishes were shared, I never thought about the etiquette. I just ate. Until the first time I sat down at a real Vietnamese family meal in Ho Chi Minh City and realized there were rules. I made a mistake within about 30 seconds. There were already 6 dishes on the table before I even sat down. A plate of steamed fish,
A bowl of gan chua.
a plate of boiled vegetables. The table itself was one of those stainless steel restaurant tables, about 1 meter across, roughly 3 feet. 4 plastic stools around it. Everyone else had a small rice bowl. So I did what felt normal. I reached for the fish and took a decent-sized piece. Not huge, but big enough. Then I noticed something strange. 3 people paused, just for a second. No one said anything, but one of my relatives quietly moved another dish closer to the center. For a moment, I realized something. At Vietnamese meals, there are quiet rules everyone follows. Don't grab the best piece first. Don't take the last piece. And elders usually start before you do. No one explains these rules, but somehow, everyone at the table already knows them. A few weeks later, I noticed the same pattern again. This time at a small restaurant. 6 people at a metal table. The table was already crowded when I sat down. I counted 11 dishes, a whole fried fish, 2 vegetable plates, a bowl of soup, a clay pot of braised pork, 3 dipping sauces, rice bowls stacked at the edge. Every dish sat in the middle, no individual plates, and nobody asked, which one is mine? People just rotated between dishes. A small piece of fish, a bite of vegetables, a spoon of soup, then rice. At first it looks chaotic, but if you watch carefully, something very precise is happening. Everyone is self-regulating. Small bites, short turns. Nobody camps on one dish. And the strange part is, no one explains the rules. You just absorb them. But even after noticing this pattern, one question still bothered me. Why does the table need so many dishes in the first place? The answer becomes obvious once you look at what everyone is actually eating. At that same restaurant, every person had the same thing in front of them. A small bowl of white rice, about the size of your fist. That bowl of rice is the real center of the meal. Every bite starts there. Then people add a little bit of something else. A piece of fish, a few strands of vegetables, a spoon of soup, then back to rice again. The next bite might be completely different. Maybe pork, maybe pickled vegetables, maybe herbs. The dishes on the table aren't meant to be full meals. They're components. Each one adds something specific to the rice. Protein, vegetables, salt, sourness, fresh herbs. That's the real reason Vietnamese meals use so many shared dishes. Each one adds something small to the rice bowl. The meal isn't assembled on a plate. It's assembled one bite at a time. Together, they balance the rice. This is very different from Western meals. In the United States, the plate itself is the meal. A burger, a steak, a bowl of pasta. Everything arrives already assembled. In Vietnam, the meal is assembled continuously, one bite at a time, which is why the table looks crowded. but the rice bowl stays simple. And once you notice the rice bowl, the unwritten rules become easier to see. Because the dishes don't just balance flavor, they also balance relationships. A few months later, I saw this clearly at a wedding dinner in Saigon. A large round banquet table, about 1.5 meters across, roughly 5 feet, 10 seats. Within minutes, the lazy Susan in the middle was full. I counted 12 dishes: shrimp, chicken, vegetables, soup, noodles. And something subtle started happening. The older relatives reached first. Not aggressively, just slightly earlier. Younger people waited half a second longer before touching the food. Nobody said anything, but the rhythm was obvious. Food becomes a quiet way to signal respect. Taking a small portion shows awareness. Offering a dish to someone older shows deference. Waiting a moment before reaching shows social awareness. The shared table distributes pressure. Instead of one person serving everyone or dividing food perfectly, the group constantly adjusts in real time. It allows hierarchy to exist without anyone needing to say it out loud. And this is where the system starts to make outsiders even more uncomfortable. Because there's another part of Vietnamese meals that surprises people. Everyone uses the same chopsticks, the same dishes, the same bowls of sauce. If you grew up in the United States, that can feel unhygienic. You're dipping chopsticks that were just in someone's mouth back into a shared plate, sometimes straight into a bowl of fish sauce. The first time many visitors see this, they immediately assume it's unsafe. But watch what actually happens at the table. People don't grab large pieces. They take small portions, one bite of fish, a few strands of vegetables, then back to their rice bowl. And because everyone rotates dishes constantly, the food moves quickly. No one sits there poking at the same plate for 10 minutes. It's another form of self-regulation, and Vietnam is slowly adapting too. At many family meals now, you'll see someone flip their chopsticks around. They use the clean end to take food from the shared plate, then flip them back to eat. Some restaurants even provide serving chopsticks. The system evolves, but the core idea stays the same. The table still belongs to everyone. Once you understand the rules, Vietnamese meals start to look very different. The shared table, the dishes moving around, the quiet rhythm of people reaching in one bite at a time. The rice bowl anchors the meal, the dishes balance the flavors, and the table manages the relationships. Food isn't divided into separate plates. It moves around the table. And if you're not paying attention, you might accidentally grab the biggest piece of fish before the oldest person even picks up their chopsticks, which is exactly the mistake I made the first time I sat down at that table. But once you start noticing how Vietnamese meals manage sharing, hierarchy, and even hygiene, another question appears. Because millions of people here don't just eat together at home. They eat on the street, tiny carts, plastic stools, food cooking right next to motorbike traffic. And somehow, it's often safer than people expect. If you want to understand Vietnam, subscribe. Because in the next video, we'll look at why Vietnamese street food is often safer than it looks.